So these little fairies, I outlined them pretty darkly so you could see them here in the workshop. Generally what I will do will be a very faint outline. And I don't worry if the ink that I'm spraying covers over it. That's because I can see enough to get back to the image.
And what do you outline them with?
This I just did it in pencil. These I use my favorite Pitt markers. Everybody has their favorite markers, and I do have my painting with the Pitt, Faber-Castell Pitt markers and pens. They're permanent ink, Indian ink, and they take water really well while they're wet.
Do you like the sepia best, or you use all different ones?
I mostly use sepia and sanguine. The sanguine is really red. Here we go. It's really red, but it does work well. Okay, on these I use about half and half on the skin tones. But as I said, that's just the underlaying coat. On here, excuse me, you can see how red the sanguine really is when it's watered down. But as opposed to Rod's plein air painting, where he does not want to get the board wet to start with, on here you want to get the board wet because the clay board will instantly absorb it and you can't move it around. Like I forgot on this cat, I just wanted a very faint paint. I forgot on this cat to wet this side down before I applied the thin down ink. And I've been erasing ever since. Because this cat is going to be a white cat. So this one time, I probably will use, in my golden fluid acrylics, use some of the white for the final highlights, because the white boards are really off-white, very creamy. And so if I want some really white highlights, I'm going to hit either the zinc white or titanium white that comes with the fluid acrylics. So first, before to see how much time we have, I'll go ahead and demonstrate how I do some of the background painting. And for the very controlled, realistic artist, I don't think I'll damage the table too much. Okay. This will probably drive you nuts because
Let me grab a piece of cardboard.
that'll be fine. Okay.
Hey, do the fade.
We're back.
They'll be wondering what
Fade
happened.
in, fade out. Okay. Our water barrel watercolor brushes. This is the big thick one that I like to use. I really rarely use this, but it's very good for this
You
team.
want to sell it?
Harold, you give me your address, I'll make sure you get one. If they still make them. You notice I qualified. Okay. The composition is going to be the cat hiding behind this rock that the fairy is sunbathing on, and a fairy up here in the trees. Depending on how I like the composition, when I get all of my background in, there may end up being another obnoxious fairy standing on his ears.
Where did the vision come from?
My cat and my dog. I have a Pekingese who thinks the cat is her pet. The cat is old and the Pekingese is young. And the cat does not particularly like to be kissed by a Pekingese. So,
I mean, you've soaked that pretty good, haven't you?
Yeah,
Gee.
I have. And this is why.
You're right, I can feel the control freak in me already shuddering.
Okay.
Do you need paper towels?
No, my water bottle. Oh, my water bottle. Jeez, thank you. I have a little bit of trouble. This is a new water bottle, and I found last night it has a much heavier spray than I'm used to. So this is going to be some interesting effects. Let it run and play.
That's the ampersand's green?
That's the ampersand's green. You didn't? Probably more yellow than you realized it was.
I've noticed it gets yellow on dilution. It's actually get really yellow.
I think I'm about to run out of, whoa, that I will take part of. My golden fluid acrylics. Excuse me. You know you've worked with the public too much when you apologize to inanimate objects. Well, I leave a message for myself on my own phone and say thank you. You know?
And what are you
Oh,
adding there?
This is the golden, yes, this is the golden phthalo green blue shade.
And the Goldens are that heavier consistency.
Yeah, and
Well, they're
yeah,
acrylic paints, aren't they?
Oh, it's not fluid acrylic, it's just...
it's a fluid acrylic,
But it's paint.
but it is paint. Well,
Yeah.
so are the acrylic inks, basically. It's just that the fluid acrylics have more polymer than the acrylic inks do. So it's a bit more difficult to lay over some of the other inks on top of them.
I saw a face there for a second.
Yeah, I did too.
You know,
As you,
no, there's,
happy accidents.
that's one thing I love about the fantasy painting, and that's how this guy came out, my tree fairy, my tree fairy.
I love that.
Because he was in the tree. And I do a lot of painting that way. I get my colors on and see what's in there. And it's amazing the faces you see. I had a very hard time with the one fairy that I want to show the skin tones on, because in her dress, there was the spookiest face in the background. And I really wanted to leave it, but I decided against it for the sake of this demonstration.
Now, do you have the kind of the image how you want your colors to be in your head, or you're just experimenting right on the
I'm
board?
experimenting with it, because if I don't like what happens, I can let it dry and use my markers. I can lay a tree branch across it, something darker over the lighter colors. This one I'm going to let run for a minute.